Our next speaker is Professor David Ben-Shlomo. I know him very well. He's a professor for archaeology at Ariel University. His research topics include Bronze and Iron Ages archaeology of the Southern Levant, petrographic and compositional analysis of pottery, and the iconography during the Iron Age. He has been conducting in the past several years archaeological excavation at Aujah el-Foqa, which is the topic of his talk today. David.
Okay, thank you, Itzik, and I want to thank also the organizers of this very impressive and magnificent conferences. And even though my English is not so good, I will speak in English. Okay, so I will talk on the site of Aujah el-Foqa, or Khirbat Aujah el-Foqa in the Jordan Valley. The site is located on a strategic hill near the spring of Aujah, about 8 kilometers north of Jericho, in the southern Jordan Valley. And actually this site, this area is known quite well from surveys, but not so well from excavations, especially during the Bronze and Iron Ages. The site was extensively surveyed by Menashe Hill Survey, headed by the late Adam Zertal during about 20 years ago. This survey is continued by Dr. Shai Bar, and it was identified as an Iron Age II site, fortified site, yet it was not excavated. So there was a lot of evidence from the survey. The site was mapped. All the surface finds were mapped, and its destruction was dated to the Sennacherib campaign in the late 8th century, according to the pottery, the surface finds. You can see a clear component of a casemate wall surrounding the site, which is about 1.5 hectare or 15 dunams. And the pottery was collected, this looks like iron to be from the survey. There was even a reconstruction of the site from Zertal's article from 2009. When you walk around the site, you can see a lot of structures standing, sometimes about 2 meters high, and also there's a tower on the peak of the hill, and you can see rounded structures and recliner structures. Actually, the ones that stand higher, which are rounded, are probably late, maybe Mamluk or Ottoman, and that is what you see. You see it's very visible in just surveying the site. Zertal already identified the site as biblical Atarot. It's one of the towns named on the border list between Ephraim and Menashe in the book of Joshua. In fact, I think it's more reasonable to identify it as the next town, Na'arta, due to its proximity to Jericho in the list, as Shai Bar already pointed out. Okay, so this is the background of the survey. So we conducted 6 short excavation seasons at the sites since 2019. And so far 3 excavation areas were opened, A, B, and C. A in the southern part, B on the northern part, and C on the northern slope. The late phase is probably dated, according to the pottery find on the floors, to Mamluk Ottoman period, and some modern use also. It's comprised of just rounded single-room huts or small houses, 5 to 9 meters in diameter. They all were built from robbing the earlier Iron Age walls. We actually went one structure in area A and saw some more complete pottery dating it. And you can see the plan of this late village or site in blue. And the main phase is indeed the Iron Age II. And it includes a casemate wall surrounding the site and other structures. Some look quite large. You can, Also, the Iron Age level is also very visible. Before excavation, you can see outlines of walls and even some complete structures even before excavations. So it's a khirbe, yeah? And in area A, you can see, for example, the structure are not abutting the fortification wall in the south part in area A. And also there is a clear violent destruction layer dated to the Iron Age in somewhere in the 8th century. So this is basically the Iron Age plan, and we started at area A in south side of the site. Four casemate rooms were excavated, as well as an open area and part of another structure. And you can see the plan. And as I said, like, you don't have really houses abutting the casemate wall. The casemates are well built with entrances in their corner inside, towards the inside. And it's like they are in the kind of in the same direction, the same corner of the casement, and flip at some point. And we can see just below topsoil, below its surface, a layer of reconstructible pottery, the structure layer just below the surface. Further inside, we excavated a part of a rather massive structure with walls 2 meters wide. It is only partly preserved because it was robbed from a later phase structure. So this might be a massive structure. The pottery, this is just from area A, has the date of late Iron Age 2A and Iron Age 2B, and you can see if you make look for parallels, you see the parallels come from northern Israel, from the kingdom of Israel, not from Judah, the types, the common types. Most vessels are either storage jars, other closed vessels, or cooking pots, not so many open vessels or bowls or types like that. So this is area A. The main area actually now is area B. It's located on the north side, facing the spring. And this site actually contained the path and entrance to the site, because this is both facing the spring, but also this is the more moderate slope to access the site. So it makes sense to be the entrance to the site. So we started a larger area, relatively large area here. We have, it's divided to area B1 and B2, and so far there are 2 complete buildings and several fragments of other buildings that were excavated. You can see here a building northern, near the casemate wall to the north, and another southern building, the main structures in this area. And the southern building was completely excavated already, and there are 6 rooms. It's somewhat resembling the 4-room house plan, not exactly, but somewhat resembling it. And again, complete vessels on the floors, the structure layer, and also most of the vessels are storage jars and cooking pots. You can see the photograph and plan. Some vessels, some reconstructed vessels, from 2 rooms mainly, room A and room C. You can see all the closed vessels and the cooking pots dominating the assemblage, and the types are more typical of northern Israel. Another segment of another structure, maybe a larger structure, but quite large structure. We just excavated 3 rooms of it to the south, and also a lot of complete vessels, grinding stones, taboons in these rooms, very rich assemblage, at least from a pottery point of view. The other building, the northern building, is actually a more typical 4-room house, 4 large rooms, really very symmetrical, entrance in the middle, and it is located very close to the casemate wall. Maybe it is abutting it or combining with it, and we still have to finish its excavation. You can see its location, and there are 4 rooms, A, B, C, and D. And actually the room on the west, the inner room, was the richest, the room with the richest assemblage of finds, a very, very rich layer of, I think, maybe about 50 complete vessels so far, charcoals, stone vessels, etc., was excavated. And it seems like there are two floors, two overlying floors, the structural layers on top of the other, and a lot of complete vessels. Some are intact also. And we continued recently this excavation in this room, and there are more vessels, and some are really intact and many complete. A lot of jugs and so on, and all kinds of these. And you can see more clearly now that the wall in between the room is pillared. It has a pillar, very typical of four-room house, also clearly visible here in the photograph. So we haven't finished the excavation of this structure, this building, but it seems that it might have been combined with the town fortification wall, because it's really, you can see the northern wall is really the wall of the casemate wall of the settlement. So it's interesting how it is combined. So this is area B, and the last area is area C. It is located on the northern slope, and you can identify here a large tower. Before excavation, also in the survey it was mentioned. And actually we started excavation here because we assumed that this is part of the Iron Age fortification system, because there might be a wall connecting it to the casemate wall, and it's kind of in the midway of the slope facing the spring. Maybe this was a guard tower watching the way into the site. So we excavated from that conception with Michael Frackman. He headed this excavation, and we excavated the tower, most of it, more or less, and some kind of a courtyard to the south of it. And from the beginning, there was quite a big surprise, because all the pottery was not Iron Age at all. It was all Middle Bronze Age too, some 800 years earlier. So it was a surprise, and you can see the plan of this tower and the courtyard to the south. And actually, when you look at the structure, you really see it's a different technique of building, bigger and more kind of nicer stone used, larger stones aligned in more straight lines than the Iron Age constructions. So it makes sense in a way that it's a different period. And also, okay, all the pottery is the end of the Middle Bronze Age, about Middle Bronze Age 2 BC. You can see a plate here of the pottery. And it was surprising also because there was hardly any Middle Bronze Age pottery from the site, either from the survey or from the excavation above. So what is it? Is it an isolated structure? Is it part of a bigger layer that was also on the top of the hill? So it was a question, really interesting question. There are actually two subphases in this period, and the upper phase has a tabun which is blocking the entrance to this tower. So they kind of changed the function of the structure in the late phase, and a lot of the pottery actually comes from the late phase. And the lower phase, we have this construction of the tower, which is the same period, same pottery, and there is a path or pavement in the entrance of this tower leading to the courtyard with very large stones, a lot of animal bones, which were not so common in the Iron Age. So this is the earlier stage. It's built on the rock. And interesting also, no late use of the structure. Like the Iron Age, okay, they had it in fortification, and they didn't even use it in the Iron Age. So it's a really interesting phenomena. So maybe this was a separate site with with a tower and some area adjacent to it. The tower, as I said, has a good viewpoint on the spring, and you can see a view shed map here. It has that's why the reason it was built in this location, not on top of the hill, but in lower, because in this location you can see the valley, the wadi, and the way to the spring. And maybe it was part of a communication control system of regional routes, because the Aujah Valley is a route between the Jordan Valley and the hills, and it may be related also to a large town of Jericho, which is the largest Middle Bronze Age site in the region. So this is just a short review of what we found in the past few seasons in the site. And we want to continue and conclude excavation in the northern building of Area B and maybe some other parts of this area, maybe expand the structures in the south. And in Area C, possibly expand excavation also to the south to see the limit of this Middle Bronze Age little site, and actually we are starting the next season next Sunday, so everybody is invited to visit or to join work. So clearly this was, I think, a border site, I mean, to summarize. During the Iron Age, for sure, it's like a border area between the kingdom of Israel and Judah, Israel and Ammon. And there are some interesting questions, I think, still arising, like when exactly it was built. We know there's this Iron Age to be destruction, but when it was built, maybe earlier, quite earlier. And also, what are the circumstances of its destruction? Is it related to Assyrians, Ammonites, or Israel-Judah disputes, dating, and also historical circumstances? And of course, about the Middle Bronze Age site, do we have also remains of the Middle Bronze on the hilltop? We have to check that more in depth. Now we are doing also OSL also to check some sediments below the fortification wall on top to see if you have some Middle Bronze Age layer, and also maybe what is the character of this late site with a rounded structure also. So we have several questions, and I think, but you can see from the location of the site that it is a strategic site, possibly with a military character throughout all periods. So the project is also supported by the Health Foundation, so thank you for the attention.
Thank you, David. Questions? Anyone? Clear?
No question.
No, it was clear. So thank you again. Yeah. Before I will introduce the next lecture, which will be in Hebrew, so if you need earphone, please raise your hands, okay? ההרצאה הבאה תהיה בעברית של אהרון טבגר. אין אדם מקנא בבנו ובתלמידו, אז זה גאווה בשבילי להציג את אהרון, ולהזכיר גם שאהרון ארגן את הכנס הזה, את התוכן האקדמי שלו, אז ברכות גם על זה. אהרון בשנה האחרונה הוא פחות משנה, משמש כראש תחום פרסום ומחקר בקמת ארכאולוגיה, והוא לפני כן עשה דוקטורט באוניברסיטת אריאל, אחרי זה היה משתלם בתר דוקטורט באוניברסיטת תל אביב, ועבד עם עודד ליפשיץ, ועכשיו אחרי זה חזר אלינו, ועכשיו כאמור בקמת, הם התברכו בו ואנחנו גאים בזה. ההרצאה שאהרון מציג, שהיא בשמו בשם בני אבן ויבגני אהרונוביץ', סקר וחפירת בדיקה באתר נ"ג 914, האומנם זהו האתר הפולחני של בית אל.
תודה רבה איציק.